Okay, welcome to lesson 10 of the Russian Revolution. And we are going to be looking at the Bolsheviks and the Constituent Assembly. It's a fun word to say that at first, Constituent Assembly. Right, before we continue, let's try and understand what those words in that title mean, yeah? Bolsheviks, we know who they are by now, so we're not going to bother with those. You know that from previous lessons. The Constituent Assembly. To understand what a Constituent Assembly is and does, you need to understand what a constitution is, which is the two key words here, Constitution and Constituent Assembly. A Constituent Assembly is the group of people that will decide on what the country's constitution will be. And the constitution is a set of rules that the government must follow. Okay, the United States has a famous constitution. Almost every country in the world has a constitution. Britain, bizarrely, is one of the few exceptions, has what they call an unwritten constitution, where it's just like made up of a billion different documents. So lawyers can have a field day fighting over it. But most countries have a written constitution, and it's a set of rules and laws that govern what the government can do. So it might set in place limits. For example, in America, it says the president can only be president for 4 years. 5 years, sorry, and then he has to get re-elected. No, 4 years, and then he has to get re-elected, or she has to get re-elected, and they can only run twice. Yeah, these are all things written in their constitution. Think about the U.S. Constitution again. The president can only pass domestic reforms, by and large, with the support of the Senate, the legislative branch of the government. The guys that make the laws, right? The Congress, so the House of Representatives and the Senate have to be in agreement. And with the president can veto certain laws, but not if a certain percent, I think 2/3 of the Congress agree on it, and so on and so forth. So there's all these different rules that are designed to make a country run smoothly-ish. Don't look at America as an example right now, but to run smoothly, or Britain, and that's what the Constitution's for. Okay. If you're studying this in the United States of America, you will know what Constitution is, and I've just wasted 5 minutes of your life. If you're studying this outside the United States, other countries spend far less time worrying and learning about their Constitution. So that's why we have to go over that. Next thing, Constituent Assembly. These are the guys that pick the Constitution, because you've got to start somewhere, right? Constitutions don't just miraculously fall from the sky. Someone somewhere has to sit down and make it up. And so that's what the Constituent Assembly is. It's a group of people that will agree the Constitution. Right, that's out of the way. So what's happened and where are we? The Bolsheviks have taken control, like we saw last lesson, but they only control Petrograd and Moscow. The rest of the country, which is 99.9% of the country, is mostly farmyard, mostly countryside, rural, and they do not follow the lead of the Bolsheviks. In fact, most of the rest of the country prefer a different group called the Social Revolutionaries, the SRs. So Lenin has this problem. He controls the two major cities, but the rest of the country don't really follow him. Plus, the people believe they have been promised a Constituent Assembly. So Lenin has to sort of deliver one. So this is what happens then. So the Bolsheviks decrees. The Bolsheviks still had to get the Petrograd Soviet to agree, and they did not 100% support them. So this is before the Constituent Assembly is called. What Lenin is doing is he's trying to get the Bolsheviks to run the country, but he does need to get the Petrograd Soviet to support him, and they do not. So what Lenin does is a bit cheeky. He sidesteps the Petrograd Soviet, creates a brand new organization called the Council of People's Commissars. And he sort of claims that this council now has more legitimacy, is more entitled, has more right to represent the people of Russia than the Petrograd Soviet does. This is hugely convenient for Lenin because the Council of People's Commissars just so happens to be controlled by the Bolsheviks. So he tries to kind of push people's opinion towards supporting the CPC, Council of People's Commissars. And this is what the CPC say. They say the war should stop, land belonged to the peasants, not the landowners anymore, and that workers would have more rights. So these are the things he's trying to push through the CPC. On November 12th, elections are held to create that Constituent Assembly, right? So, like I said, the Constituent Assembly makes up the Constitution. So that's an incredibly important job. So you're going to have an election to pick the people that you think should be making that Constitution so that it reflects the will of the people. So that's what they do. They have these elections to the Constituent Assembly, but it goes horribly wrong from the Bolsheviks. The SRs win most of the seats. The Bolsheviks win under 25%. So the Bolsheviks' dream, Lenin's dream of crafting this communist-style constitution is now in tatters because he cannot control the Constituent Assembly. So this is a crisis for Lenin, and he's not sure what to do. So he comes up with another kind of sidestep. All right. First of all, he asks the CPC asked the Constituent Assembly to pass all of the Bolsheviks' decrees. Okay, a decree means a law. So Lenin comes to the Constituent Assembly that he does not control and says, hey, look, me and the CPC think we need to do this, this, and this. And the Constituent Assembly have a vote on that, and they say, nah. Yeah, and in fact, the Bolsheviks lose by more than 100 votes on many of their plans. So that's not going to work. So the Bolsheviks and Lenin are finding democracy a real headache, right? Because it's not doing what they want them to do. It's not passing their laws for them. So how does Lenin respond? Well, he claims that the Constituent Assembly is going against the will of the people by not passing the laws of the CPC. So the Bolsheviks do a classic stunt. Hitler does the same thing later on. They storm out of the Constituent Assembly. They stand up and walk out. And then he basically destroys democracy. He sends in the Red Guards to shut down the Constituent Assembly completely. The Bolsheviks just take complete control at this point. They ban all other political parties from existing. They arrest their members, throw them in jail, and say that the Bolsheviks are the only party that can legally exist in Russia. So, if you were a socialist revolutionary, if you were someone who believed in the bourgeois revolution with the provisional government, this is a disaster. This is a tragedy for those people, for those democratic reformers who were hoping, praying that there could be a democratic future for Russia. That's just gone right out the window. Okay, Red Guards are arresting members of other political parties, putting them in jail, and Russia becomes a one-party state. Yep, the Bolsheviks are the only political party allowed to exist. And with that, all hopes of democracy disappear. So have a go at the two questions that are on this slide and have a go at the writing task here. Now you've got to do a pica paragraph. There's an example for you there. I'm going to try and write the second pica paragraph to answer that 8-mark question, to explain two consequences of Bolshevik takeover of power. Okay, hope all that makes sense, and I hope